I'm here with Jamie Savage, who is the founder of The Leadership Agency, which is an executive recruitment firm specializing in hiring for high-growth companies in North America and the UK. Her company is known for helping startups and scale-ups hire top talent with a focus on diversity and inclusion. Jamie is a leader in disruptive HR practices, including the implementation of a 4-day workweek at her firm. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How has it been for you so far here at the event? What are some of the things that have made you think differently, or is there any key takeaways that you've since yesterday?
Well, first, I would say that I've been having a great time. And I'd say that my number one takeaway in terms of experience has been that this is a very different platform for engagement and for networking. It's very obvious that the intention behind Magnet Network Live in this event was to facilitate meaningful connections. And you can really see how they've done that. There's multiple different locations. So your settings are different. They're smaller, more intimate. You have a very diverse group of speakers from, diversity and thought. You have leaders and subject matter experts who are from nonprofit, the nonprofit sector, from startups and scale-ups, to large enterprise corporations. And you can see it in the overall experience, but you can feel it. Mm-hmm. And I would say that my overall experience has been a feeling, but also there's been some really meaningful connections already made.
That's really interesting. I think our interview here is a prime example of that in terms of very different worlds coming into contact where they otherwise wouldn't. I come from a research world, which probably is a little bit farther away from your space. But one of the things, I was at your talk yesterday.
Oh, great.
And I wanted to ask you about Taylor Swift.
Oh, okay.
And retention. If I was really sort of surprised and also blown away just by the sheer magnitude in terms of numbers, but the impact that it's had. Could I just leave it off there?
Yeah, of course. And I used the Taylor Swift example, not because I'm, a Swiftie, as they say.
My daughter is.
A lot of people are. And hence the Eras tour grossing $2 billion. But I think the reason I use that as an example is because recruitment and the talent crisis is multifaceted and it's incredibly nuanced, right? So I think showing examples of how different industries, sectors, in this case, talent, like Taylor Swift is the talent and she's the brand and she's the organization as well, right? And I think that it's important to be able to show the contrast of how the talent crisis and recruitment is solved by not just one solution. Mm-hmm. It's, the talent crisis is underpinned by having the right recruitment and talent solution. But to be able to do that, you have to identify what your actual business needs are. And the Taylor Swift example, she doesn't need to invest in a talent acquisition strategy that is heavily weighted in attraction because every top AV professional out there or backup dancer or logistics professional is going to want to join the Eras tour. So she doesn't need to focus on attraction. She needs to focus on retention, to have a continuous, team from the beginning to the end of the tour. Yeah. Right. So that's, the reason why I drew attention to it is because, talent acquisition and recruitment strategies have different components that need to be identified by an organization to be successful.
I think it's obvious why that example has the potential to resonate and sort of amplify that point. But I just wanted to follow up. I'm going a little bit off script because I'm just interested to hear what you said about the kind of flipping over between talent and retention. So much of the productivity gap, the skills gaps that we've been talking about over the last day and a half have, in many ways, from my observation, kind of been focused on that sort of getting the right people into the role. But the whole piece after what happens post recruitment, post onboarding, how do you? I just want to sort of open up the conversation there in terms of what you see the differences are between those two sides of that coin.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say some of the differences, that I've identified in my years of experience and with my clients and in the practice of recruitment is that it's never linear, right? It's never this perfect linear path to success. And what I mean by that, it's almost like, the challenge or the issue I take with the term even digital transformation. Mm-hmm. It implies that there's a beginning and there's an end. Mm-hmm. And, recruitment is often looked at that way as well. We have an opening and we make the hire and the job is done.
Right.
And I think that it's something that is a continuous investment. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
Business needs will change, and as they should.
Yeah.
So to bring it to maybe a more current and relevant topic of future of work is, the big elephant in the room, which is AI, which is digital adoption and transformation. And what does that mean for, today's talent crisis?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the truth is that a point was made yesterday by Paul Thompson that I thought was really powerful, is that our number one workforce right now is our current workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think as companies grow and evolve, identifying opportunities for their current workforce to be upskilled, to be, identified for potential growth and future opportunities, and applying a model and a space within the organization to be upskilled or to grow versus having to, hire from outside of the organization. So there's all these different layers to it that I think are important to look at. But I'll leave it with the fact that recruitment and a good recruitment strategy isn't what differentiates you necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone recruits. If you own a business or if you work, everyone has to make a hire at some point.
Yeah.
So doing the practice of recruitment and doing it well isn't necessarily your differentiator because everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
It's almost like AI to some degree, right? Like at some point, we're all going to be digitally transformed and we're all going to be adopted on some level in terms of what we implement in terms of our business. But it is the key that's going to set you apart is that human element to it.
Sure.
And, being able to identify the needs of your business and how you want to differentiate. It's not just because you have a recruitment strategy or just because you've digitally adopted or transformed your business. It's specific to your business needs.
So I just want to follow up on that and get your take on the difference between a job description and the other skills that a candidate brings to an interview that aren't on the job description, the social and emotional skills, the soft skills and whatnot. Can you talk about how those might align with organizational value or organizational culture? And from your perspective, your leadership perspective, where does that kind of fit into the equation?
Well, I think that, as an organization, when you look at what needs to get done, you typically look at, the hard skills. Like, I don't even know if we're using that terminology anymore, but it's, you look at experience, right? You look at relevancy. You look at things that you identify with. And people often think because this person has done this job before, and from what I can understand, relatively well or exceptionally well, so therefore they'll be great at the job that I need them to do. And we often see that play out not successfully, and oftentimes it works out perfectly fine. It all depends on the job and it all depends on the organization and the person being hired to do the job. But I think in today's world, what is going to set a candidate and an organization apart is their ability to be agile. Yeah. Right. So I think being able to demonstrate agility and resilience, because I think even if we look at the past 4 years, think about it. In the past 4 years, we've gone through a global pandemic. We've completely disrupted, the future of talent in the moment from what the organizations need, what they don't need, our work from home policies, our culture of the organization, identifying purpose. And, we're trying to build the bus as it's moving in a lot of cases. And really where we're left right now is without a lot of historic or benchmark information to help us determine where we go from here. The only thing we can really rely on is our ability to be agile. Right.
I'm going to not pivot, but that takes me into one of the prepped questions that I want to get to, I think, which is about the shift to a 4-day work week, the impact or influence on productivity, and what I think is really critical is employee well-being. And as a last question, so what can other businesses learn from that experience of moving to a 4-day work week?
Yeah, so I'll take you on a bit of a journey here. So we made the decision in October of 2020 to transition to a 4-day work week. And that was fueled by burnout. So in the early stages of the pandemic, my business, the leadership agency, we basically shut the doors and literally and figuratively, like I remember on March 13th, I said, okay, I'll see everyone in 2 weeks, thinking that was really going to be the beginning and the end of it, not realizing that there was going to be major implications around, organizations no longer hiring and so on. So when that, started to pick back up again and our business became busy, it was like drinking from a fire hose. It was palpable how burnt out we were, and also dealing with, the trauma of a pandemic. But I had been through this before, in a prior role. I was a partner at another firm, and I had burnt out to the point of like hospitalization exhaustion. Like it was brutal. And so like one day I thought I was having a heart attack, and I Ubered to the hospital, and I thought the situation is only bad because I'm going to miss a presentation and not because I think I'm having a heart attack. So I had been through that before, and I wanted to build my company to be a better company than I had ever worked for. And so when I started to see it in myself and in my team, I knew that we can make a change, and we had the ability to do that. We're an agile, small organization. And so we did it. We just did it. And we knew that our intentions were really good in doing it, but we had a lot to figure out. So we were able to do that as an organization, figure out how that was going to be implemented and the policies that we were going to need to have to support that. And so it's only gotten better since then. But what I've learned and what I share with other organizations who want to explore this, whether it's a trial or a full rollout within the organization, is to really identify what it is that you're trying to do and why. If it's to support well-being, if it's to pressurize your organization, identify your weak spots in your productivity, be really clear and upfront and intentional about what that is that you're trying to achieve. And what that did is it did just that. It helped us see our blind spots in our productivity. And to this day, our revenue increased, our productivity has increased by over 200%, and our organization has grown globally.
Wow, amazing. Jamie, thank you so much. It was great to talk with you. It's Jamie Savage, the founder of the Leadership Agency.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.